phone calls to everybody in the government, to every contact the city hall guys knew, and we really could not manage.
It's totally amazing that you've managed to put it together in like a couple of days. Did you guys sleep at all during that week?
Yeah, a little bit.
I was very afraid of that, because if we had to give back the money, it would be a disaster for our. We didn't organize a JWOC for profit, because every euro I spend on something. I will never apply for a competition in summer.
We will never apply again to organize something on the summer.
Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to be talking with JWOC organizers 2022, Rafael and Bruno. These are the guys that were primarily responsible for the event that happened this year. Actually, two events that happened this year. So we're going to be talking about how much preparation and effort has to go into organizing an event like this, like Junior World Orienteering Champs. And we're also going to be talking about the special or unique situation that happened this year when the races actually got cancelled first because of the drought and because of the heat waves, and then they were postponed to the autumn. And then at the end, we're also going to talk a little bit about the future and ask ourselves whether it makes sense, whether it's still a good idea to organize these highest level of competition events during summer, or maybe it makes sense to move them to a little bit earlier or a little bit later in the year because of the weather conditions. So welcome, Rafael. Welcome, Bruno.
Yeah, good morning. And thanks for the invitation.
Everybody.
Cool. So I'm super happy that you've decided to join. I have been to Portugal 4 times this year. I should have been 5 times because I didn't join the last part of the JWOC, the forest JWOC, so to say, because unfortunately I already had other plans for that weekend. But I feel like I get quite a good understanding of what the terrains are in Portugal, in Aguiar da Beira specifically. And also I have been there for the July JWOC session, the sprint session, so to say, where the whole drama unfolded. So I will have my own opinion about how it was handled and how it developed in general, which I will say a little bit later in the video. In general, it's positive, so there's nothing to worry about. But we are meeting over here today, and I'm super happy because I feel that this was a very extraordinary event that happened, and lots of interesting things, I think, can be learned from it. And this is also part of my mission today, to gather some important thoughts and maybe advices as well for other organizers that will be handling similar level of events in the future. So I'm super happy that we're meeting. All right, I'm going to start with the first one, which is how long were you preparing for the JWOC in Aguiar da Beira? And I know that there were some delays, so it probably was a long time. But how did it look like from your perspective?
I can start maybe.
Yeah.
If you want. So we started with the first idea about trying to organize something big in Aguiar da Beira started in beginning of 2018, if I remember right. Back then we were talking with the federation about organizing the European champs for the EYOC for the kids or the junior world champs, and then we decided to apply for the world champs in the junior classes.
Right.
And I remember the initial conversations with the federation were during the Portugal meeting in 2018. And actually the application went out in 2018, and we had to make the presentation and the bid to IOF. And it was in fact in 2018, in July, August, I think it was August 2018 that we got the event back to Portugal. So it was 4 long years of waiting.
And I think you were first planning to organize the JWOC in 2021, and it was postponed due to COVID, right?
Yeah, it was 2021. So we got 2021, and the first, everything was in line to organize in 2021. The first draft of the maps were at the end of 2019. So yeah, this COVID delayed. In fact, it was putting us a little bit into sleeping mode. If I got this this wording was very much used during the COVID times, sleeping mode, because we had the maps ready, and yeah, everybody was more or less sleeping and not wanting
Yeah.
for, because you don't know what to expect with that.
Although I will say that sleeping mode is a little bit hurtful to you as organizers, I think, because it's not like you were doing nothing, but you had to reorganize many things, move the schedules, update the maps probably, right?
Yeah, I can.
I would say
I can let Rafael. The maps were updated. This is a new thing, but and Rafael can confirm the maps were updated a lot of times.
I was just going to ask, how many times
in-
did you update the maps?
Like
so.
I prepared the clinic, the coaching course setting clinic here, and we were analyzing a little bit of JWOC things. And I went into the middle distance map folder, and we have I think 30 versions of that map, and for sure there are much more than that. But different versions we have more than 30. For example, the map for the long distance, and people do not know that on Friday, after the middle distance race on Friday, someone, I think it was Elge, went to the forest to recheck some of the controls, and we found out that like on the 2 days before, they cut a little bit of forest around control number 1 of the men's class. So Rafael on Saturday morning, and the race was on Sunday, Rafael went there, he updated the map again, we reprinted the map. So that map was printed 3 times, one
Holy
time for
smokes.
July, the other time for November, and then since we had this last change, we reprinted again. So, and I think this is of the utmost crucial importance. The maps need to be accurate, and
Yeah, I agree.
in here, as a technical director, I really need to praise Rafael because he's doing a fabulous job map making, and all the last adjustments, he was doing them.
Awesome.
So,
but at the same time, a question comes to my mind. Didn't you have like an agreement with people that are doing cuts in the forest, cutting the forest, that they should let you know?
We had it's like a little bit before July in Carapito, in a long distance area. We agreed with the local presidents that okay, nobody will cut since maybe April or May, and it worked very well, but not anymore for November.
Right.
So we went to the terrain again several times before November, and then once again I changed a lot of cuttings and queenings, and just those on Friday we found out new ones. For the middle and the relay, there was a huge queening, vegetation queening project from the local government. What they did, they started before the JWOC, then they'd stop about 1 month before, so I could update the maps and so on. And then after July, they have to keep going. So after the JWOC in July, they started again queening, and then only 2 weeks before the JWOC, they stopped. I went to the terrain, I updated the maps, and we changed a little bit some controls, and we printed the map again. So actually, we have a shared 2 days ago a post in JWOC social media where you can compare the middle distance back in July and in November, and it's a huge difference. It was I must say that it was much more challenging in July because we have much more vegetation. But still, the course was very nice. But yeah, in July it was much more difficult with the vegetation.
Okay.
Yeah, much more. And even if we go back to the first draft of the middle distance course, it should be much more challenging than it was in fact, because yeah, and you have been many times in Aguiar da Beira, so you know that in Aguiar da Beira, the white forest, it's not 100% of runnability.
Yeah.
So there's always some vegetation that hinders the running speed and also the visibility, and that's really crucial when you want to have challenging courses to reduce the visibility.
True.
So in fact, also the first part of the course, the initial part was totally clean. So now the forest is super nice to run. It's so open and visible, but yeah, it challenge in terms of technical challenge for the athletes, it's a little bit lower. But I think in the end it was more fair, because then if you don't have these such greener forests, it's a more fair competition, and I think the best on the day one. So that's what's matter.
True. Yeah, absolutely. What are the most difficult areas of organizing such a big event from the perspective of organizers? What was the most challenging thing, like putting aside the delays and everything connected with that?
The easiest part, it's the technical part, like the courses, the maps, that's easy because that's something we are very used to do. We organize good competitions for many years already. We organize very good training camps. We always update the maps for the trainings and so on. So that's actually not the most difficult part. Of course, especially for the sprints, you need to be hyper careful to try to see all the places where people might go through, and you need to tape and so on. So I would say that the easiest part is the technical part. For organizing a competition like this, the most difficult part is the rest. It's the quarantine, it's the buzzes that you need to go from quarantine to pre-start, and it's the pre-start, it's the start. That's the kind of things that you are not used to do, that actually puts a lot of extra efforts. I can tell you that the buzz schedule I did from the quarantine to the start to July, I did it in 19. And the reason for that is that we had an agreement that the city hall would pay for it. And for them to know how many kilometers, I had to make a plan. So I said, okay, we arrived from JWOC in Denmark in 19. I had fresh in my mind what I wanted to do, so I did right away the schedule for the buses. And that's the kind of things that are most difficult. And I would say maybe try to improve your design and your image outside. Try to have everything very clean. That's also something that we did more this time than the other competitions. And to organize in July, we also put some big efforts to make sure on the security. We have a huge security plan with the firefighters. We have like 20 plus vehicles on the forest, specific exit routes. We had about 40 firefighters staff around involved in the competition in July. Then most of them were not needed. But the security part is also something important when you are organizing in July. And bulletins, maybe a little bit, because at least in Portugal, we are not very used to do bulletins. Usually we use just a website, and the bulletins need to be very good and very detailed, precise, and information from all over all the areas. So that's a little bit something that you need to lose extra time. But besides that, I don't know if Bruno wants to mention something else.
I just want to focus on the technical part. So and on the technical part, of course, it's different. Rafael tells that, yeah, we are used to it, and we really feel that we do a good job. So we were kind of confident that we would deliver some high quality courses, but you really need to pay attention to all the small details. Most of the times organizers, they just let go some details. Like, for example, model event maps and warm-up maps are super important. They are the face of the entire organization. And the most critical voices you will get from the coaches. And the coaches are in quarantine for a long time, a lot of time. So they will talk with a lot of runners that will come out from the warm-up map. They will also go to the warm-up map. So if the warm-up map is totally shit, then yeah, you already get some really bad feedback. And we really focus on, we need to make sure that it's totally consistent all the way. Not only the competitions map need to be 100% accurate, but also model events and warm-up. You need to be super consistent, because then if some question will arise at the team official meeting, the answer is easy. It is as it is on the warm-up, on the model event maps. So it's totally like that. As for the sprints, yes, the sprints are when IOF made this split of having sprint walk and forest walk, I think one of the first ideas from IOF was, okay, it's much more easy for us to take a sprint walk to a country that is not so developed. Like, for example, we can bring orienteering to China or some of those countries, because they have really, really nice sprint terrains and not so many forest high quality terrains. But the sprint is the most difficult distance to organize. Not only because the gaps are so small, and the difference, like if there is a car on the competition area, it can influence the results, because you are running, and if you need to stop by a car, it can influence. If you have a dog running around the sprint terrain, that can influence a lot the results, because you have someone that is totally confident and it just goes through the dog and it doesn't care, and you have someone that is like on that topic. Me and Rafael, just for you to, like, we did a small bulletin that was delivered around Carapito, because people they do not know really so much the orienteering there. And so we did a small leaflet that was distributed explaining what was going to happen.
Also, I went to the church. I went to the church to talk with the priest.
We went to the church. So on Sunday, when it was church time, we went there. We talked to the priest, asking people, please do not take your cars, and please put your dogs inside. So, and also the course setters, and we didn't start with this, and this is quite important to mention, because right now the face of the JWOC is me and Rafael, but there's a big team behind us, and we wouldn't have done this if we didn't have the rest of the team. They are as important as we do. And Daniel, for example, the course setter for the sprint, he did an amazing job identifying places where we have dogs and we need to put them in. So I think on that topic, we did what we could, but in the end, there were some problems, because one runners, they went into one of the out of bounds area. And yeah, there's always small things that can happen. And we did put a lot of tape in the terrain, a lot of barriers and a lot of things. So putting a quality sprint on the terrain is hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I can tell you, it's the for the sprint days, I struggled with finding enough people for the whole competition, because I needed about 30 people to 40 to put on the terrain, 30, both controlling controls and controlling artificial barriers. And in the forest, you actually don't need to do it, at least in Portugal. So yeah, sprint, a lot of things can go wrong in the sprint.
So we had a map with the places where the guards were going to be. The exact number is 30. So we had 30 guards on the sprint terrain. So yeah. It's
nice.
hard.
Wow, lots of effort. By the way, regarding this topic in general, a question that comes to my mind is, when you're registering to organize such a big event, do you get any help from the IOF side? Maybe there's procedures that you should follow, like the checklist of things that are super important for this kind of competition, some templates that you can reuse that people created in the past and they can be useful. Does something like this gets handed over to the organizers?
Yes, yeah, and we are very lucky, because we had some great help from our senior event advisor and from his assistants, and the Portuguese controller was Carlos Monteiro. We did a fantastic job helping us as well. So the IOF will deliver you the competition rules and the checklist of everything that you should be careful. I don't know, Bruno, maybe about 60 pages of information of things that you should be aware, and there is an Excel sheet with everything that you need to be careful. And every time you have a meeting with your advisors, we will go through, or you will go through the list topic by topic. And I can tell you, one of the meetings we had, it's 2 days. No, it was 1.5 days. Well, the most important meeting I had here on the terrain with the event advisors, we took 1.5 days to go through all the checklist.
Nice. I thought that something like this should be there.
Yeah, but at least for us, we had no other years material to use. No, not that particular things. Yeah, but if someone organizing next year's needs something, I'm open to share our documents and so on if they ask. So yeah.
Yeah, and so do you think that something should be added to those documents that come from IOF that could help other organizers in the future?
IOF has a lot of things, but
the material, the JWOC manual, and I'm a little bit, I need to be careful with what I say because I'm also inside IOF, and I also have some responsibility with JWOC. So, but the manual is quite complete. And there's Helge did it, and he was our senior event advisor, so it's really complete. The information is all there, so you just need to read it. But then one thing is to read it, the other thing is to have experience to put it into place. And for me, this is the critical thing, is to have time to put it into place. Because Rafael was doing this full time, and for the last 3 months before the JWOC, I was also doing it full time, and that makes a total difference. Yeah, and that's one of the steps that we really need to take inside orienteering, is to have this as professional as possible.
Absolutely.
When you face a competition like this with our aim from the beginning was to deliver the best JWOC ever. When you want to do such thing, you want to be sure that you take care of every detail, because I'm the only one in the organization full time. I did a lot of preparation for the others, for example, for the start team, for the TV production as well, a little bit, for the quarantine and so on. And it requires a lot of time. I can tell you, maybe from September the year before until the competition, I worked pretty much full time on JWOC related matters. And I was working maybe 60 hours maybe per week. And yeah, if you really want to take care of all the details, having all those banners in the finish, having good quarantine and so on, you need a lot of time.
Yeah,
I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm actually amazed how much time you say that it took. And Bruno, you've mentioned about the team that is behind this. How many people did you need to like organize everything, both that July competition and then the November competition as well?
It was more than 100. That is the area of Rafael.
Yeah, that was one of my job, to put up such a team. And I can tell you, we were about 120 people related to orienteering from Orista and from other clubs, people that volunteer to come here. And also some hired staff, people like the TV production people and so on. About 120. But then we had a huge help from the workers from the city hall, which maybe included about 40 people. And then we had the firefighters and the local police forces, which goes up to 200 people altogether.
Wow, nice. That was like something that I had in my mind, something between 100 and 250 probably. But it's still like a huge workforce that is needed to organize. And as you've already mentioned, probably the spread is the most demanding.
The thing that I got most surprised with our team, and our team was amazing, was that when I left now in November, we had no interval day between changing the arenas. When I left Carapitu Arena on Saturday at 6 p.m. to go to the team officials meeting, the arena was 95% ready. And the relay finished maybe 3 or 4 hours before. So you have been in our arenas, we put a lot of effort to build it. And from one time to the other, in 4 hours or 5 hours, the arena was put all from one place to the other, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was. You need a big team and a motivated team. And in here, a shout out for the city hall workers as well. They did a big part of that.
And also you need a good plan and a good, communication so that everybody actually knows what they are supposed to do and not just walk around.
Yeah, that's one of the things we planned for November was, okay, what materials do we need to bring from one arena to the other? And then we made a list of vehicles we have, and we said, okay, on this car, then the barriers will go on this car, the car, and so on and so on. For all the things we had about maybe 7 big trucks, all going one after each other from one arena to the other, and that was the best way to optimize the time and the resources we had. Yeah.
True. Cool. All right. Let me ask then about how did it look like from your perspective when the events regarding the delay of the July event started to unfold? I can tell you before you begin, I can tell you how it looked from my perspective. So we were actually sitting at the airport. We were already waiting in front of the gate. So the first check-in was already done. Our baggage was already loaded on the plane. And then somebody came and showed me the information on, I don't know, maybe it was Facebook, maybe some other social media app, with the message from you, from JWOC organizers, that it looks like all the forest races are going to be canceled. And I just looked at it and I'm like, nah, that can't be true. I mean, somebody's probably joking around. But then I thought about it for a second. And I thought, okay, there's a quick way of checking it. So I just started Googling if there is anything like that happening in Portugal. And yes, it pops up immediately. And this is where I realized that this is probably true. So this is where it started for us. But I know that it started for you probably earlier. So when?
Yeah, it actually didn't start much earlier than what we released. We had
Yes.
Yeah, the
Sorry,
forecast.
Bruno, let me just ask him one question. What day and what moment was that?
Oh, okay. I don't remember exactly. I would have to check, but we were coming probably like 3 days before JWOC
Thursday.
started.
Thursday,
I
maybe.
think it
Like,
was
maybe.
Friday because we released it on Thursday evening, so probably you check it on Friday morning.
No, it was evening because we were flying in the evening.
Okay, so it was Thursday. Yeah, so
Okay.
it was Thursday. But for us,
Because my mind is a little bit blurry on those days.
because it in fact it did it started maybe 3 weeks before, because in fact we got you were here for ABOM, I think.
Yeah,
so at ABOM the temperatures were really high.
true.
So as a technical director, I thought, no, it will be totally unfair because heat has a huge influence on physiology. I'm a sports scientist, so I know this, and I really like sports physiology, exercise physiology. So heat has a lot of influence. So when you are planning for a competition, you want it to be as fair as possible. And when you have this system on JWOC that everybody is running the same final, and it should keep like this, I don't think we should change it. It should stay exactly like this. And we thought, no, it will be totally unfair. And we planned this to start at 8. So it was going to start really, really, really early. But with so many people that we had, the last one will start at 12:30ish, around that. So in fact, on the rules, there is one rule that says that if JWOC has more than 180 participants, we can have on the long distance 1.5 minute start interval.
Right.
So it is written on the rules. So we ask, due to that weather constraint, we ask for a rule deviation to IOF, asking to allow us to do 1.5 minute start interval for our long distance starting at 8. This would mean that if the
temperature would be
were going to be, I think, above 30 or 30 or
32, I guess.
I think in the end we move it back to 30. So it was a lot of discussions within IOF already around that time. And yeah, the things went back and forward, but the rule deviation was approved. So we got this approved. So if we had these temperatures around, like we had in ABOM, for example, then we could have the 1.5 minute start interval, and we feel that that would be more fair. Of course, it will be a little bit strategy inside the countries, because probably they would not put their best runner starting on the last start group to avoid the more hits, but we wanted to keep it as fair as possible. Then weather was changing. I can tell you that the weekend before, I was with Carlos Monteiro, the Portuguese event advisor. We were setting already the controls for the model event of the middle and the relay, and it was raining. But the weather changed, as you said, and we got that really fantastic news that then we had to transmit, and this was only, I think, 2 days before we
and
then, and this was the first time. This was the first time it happened in Portugal. This never happened before.
It's like the reason to such a rule in the government, it's that in 2017 we had huge fires where a lot of people were killed because they couldn't run away. When I say a lot of people, it's about 60. So because of that tragedy, they managed this rule. If the government says, okay, nobody goes, nobody can go. And the local, Bruno, how do you call the civil protection? The local controllers for security of the people in the city hall, they told me maybe 1 month before, Rafael, if this rule is going ahead, we really can't do anything. And I can tell you, since the government took the decision on Thursday, I have been 2 days closed inside the city hall. We made tens of phone calls to everybody in the government, to every contact with the city hall guys knew, and we really could not manage. And yeah, it was when me and Bruno, we finally, at least me, when I finally came to the reality that, okay, it will not happen. Maybe it was Friday, I don't remember.
No,
or maybe Saturday.
Thursday. No, Thursday.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So
he was crying. He was crying like a little baby.
Yeah, I was completely. I was destroyed. But then after, let's say, 10 minutes, then I said to Bruno, okay, what can we do?
No, but here, I think, Rafael, we need to give a really good word for Elge. And I can tell you that Elge was the one that really, he saw how destroyed we were. And I think everybody can imagine this. We were preparing such small details. Remember, we went to the church just to get the dogs inside so that no one would be bothered in the sprint to get one dog barking. So we went to all the small details, but this we could not control. So we were totally devastated. And Elge was the one that really started putting things around, and he proposed to IOF to do this sprint relay, and we refocused. So everything happened really fast. So
yeah, we went from the tears from, okay, let's try to save the week, let's try to do something else. And yeah, very fast we went from crying to set up something.
The decisions here were really, on the afternoon on Thursday, we were having a meeting with IOF, with Hendrik, CEO from IOF, and also Sondre, I think, was also there. So we presented the plan for the week, and really, again, really good that IOF Council had made this decision to have the sprint relay official. I think it was super important for the teams and also for us, because this was like, okay, no, this is not just a joke. We are working hard to deliver a world championship and the first sprint relay junior world championship. So it gave us some hope, and in a way it boosted our morale from being totally gutted to, okay, let's try and save this and do something.
I actually have to say that it's totally amazing that you've managed to put it together in like a couple of days, do the courses, prepare everything inside the area, and print the maps. So you were very, very agile.
Yeah,
actually, I think I will like write my memories from those days, because some things I don't know in which day we did, and I need to go back and try to focus and and to write it down, because it's interesting, at least for me, because it was like, okay, in one day we did one course. After we went to the terrain, checked the controls, okay, everything was ready. So now let's cut everything for the printer guy, send to the printer, and okay, now we are done with the sprint relay. Let's focus on the urban relay on Friday. So it was one thing at a time. Every day we were doing a very important task, like course setting, checking the terrain, doing a bulletin, then team official meeting. And it's very nice. And I need to go back, maybe using also the files that we produced, to see in which days we did what, because it will be interesting for me.
For the sprint relay, I know. If Tom is interested, I can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, the sprint relay, because I was closed in the city. While we were planning the sprint relay with Danielle, I was in the city hall trying to fix the problem.
So then it was there, because it was still a little bit open that we could do something on the end of the week in the forest.
Yeah.
So Rafael was focused on trying to work with the police and the protection guys to see whether we could do something and what was the plan to do something. We were a little bit lucky because the arena for the sprints, if you remember, had a little bit part of forest.
Yes.
But in fact, that since the football field is considered being a part of Carapito, so it's considered to be urban area, that part up until the football field was good to use. But if we go on the north of the football field, then it was not possible. So the course setting for the sprint relay was done, I think, in one day. So I started, me and also with the help of Danielle, on Friday evening, and we finished on Saturday, and then Sunday was the day that we went around the terrain to check all the controls.
After the sprint?
No, the sprint was on Monday.
Oh yeah, after the after the opening ceremony.
So we went there, we checked all the places for the controls. We
updated the map again.
Yeah, the map. If you look careful, the map for the sprint relay is different from the map from the sprint.
Yeah, I noticed.
So there's some small changes. Also, the barriers were changed. We had to do this because we needed to create a new challenge for the runners. So we changed the barrier location. And yeah, I think in the end, and then the idea was also, okay, we have here the guys from the TV production. We are going to pay them, and we had to pay them. So there was no chance of, okay, just this was canceled, sorry, go away. So we had to pay them. And my idea on my mind is we need to broadcast this. There's no other way. We have the camera guys here. We have everything here. So when the course setting was made, it was made to try to use the places where we had cameras, or where we had, because we had the internet point near the start of the sprint, so that we can show the sprint. So I talked with the guys from the internet that were there putting the fiber optic cables, and I asked them, how far can you go from the start? How far can you go? And they say, well, we can go around 200 meters. So then I planned the course to have those two TV points inside of the village to use the maximum 200 meters. So in fact, okay, I said, okay, these are the points where we have to go. So the courses were made to go to the first one, go around to the city, come to the second one, and then go around. So it has these limitations. And then it's also the limitations of doing a proper sprint relay, because you need to balance the forkings, and you need to create route choices. And I think in the end it was fantastic. And I was doing some analysis of the route choice, and people were going on all the route choices possible. So I think in the end the course was really good, especially when it was done in one and a half day.
Exactly. Well, I didn't hear any complaints myself. Did you guys sleep at all during that week?
Yeah, a little bit.
I would say I slept most, and we were waking up very early. but I slept at least 5-6 hours every day.
Okay.
It can shut off.
Not that bad.
No, but like the IT guys and probably Bruno preparing the live stream for the next day, they were up until late preparing stuff, but my job was done, so I went to sleep early.
Yeah, I mean,
most
rest
of
is
the days.
important as well, right?
Yeah. But I can tell you that, and on some of the days I could have at least 2-3 more hours of sleep, but I just could not go to sleep because my mind was
Too many things going on.
too many things, and then the anxiety of trying to deliver something good was always there, and we didn't have the 5 competitions to show. We just have 2 officials to show, so we really need to put all the chips on those 2. So we really need to prepare as much as possible to deliver a good competition. And I think in the end it was fantastic.
Right.
For me.
I can also tell you
fantastic.
how it looks from the perspective of the participating team. When we've realized that this is no joke and this is actually happening, all the forest competitions are probably cancelled. As you said at the beginning, the narrative was that maybe somewhere towards the end there will be one race, maybe possible. But I kind of told everybody that the probability is rather low, so they should rather think that the forest races are not going to happen. At least in my team, almost everybody on the team was devastated because they were focusing on those middle distances and long distances, not really sprint races. We had one guy on the team that was actually coming there mainly for the sprint event, so he was unfazed, but everybody else was really sad. And what we had to do is even some small therapeutic sessions where we actually were sitting down and sharing our thoughts, how we feel about it, and what can we do about it, what should be our approach to this. So it was really difficult for the runners, and I think the best moment, the time when gears shifted a little bit, and I felt that the optimism is coming back to the youth that was participating, is when you've announced that there is a big probability that there is going to be a second part of the JWOC somewhere in November, and they are going to be able to run those forest competitions. So I think this was a brilliant move, an awesome decision, and I think it saved the whole year for these people that were training the whole year for this competition.
Yeah, and
Nice.
here Rafael can tell this, but here the big shout out is for the municipality of Aguiar da Beira, because and this decision was made before the opening ceremony. We
Already.
just have to take it was like 15 minutes meeting on the city hall, and we showed them the idea, and of course this could only go forward if we have the financial backup from the city hall. And they said, okay, we cannot guarantee if we will have TV production again, because is very expensive. And in the end, it happened. So again, really big shout out for the municipality of Aguiar da Beira. They are amazing. So it's all to them. Okay, so they have bring orienteering to Aguiar da Beira in a really good way. And yeah, and it was important for us to deliver what we prepared.
Yeah, it's funny because when we were talking with Elge about the postponing to November, it was, okay, you just need to set the courses and have a small arena and so on. And I was thinking to myself, and I know Bruno was feeling the same, come on, if we are doing this, we need to try to have at least what we prepared for July. And what we did with the City Hall, we saw, well, okay, where can we cut a little bit? So we cut it on the big stage, the big screen was smaller, we had less one tent in each arena. We had no quarantine, so we would avoid the buses. We cut some small details, but in the end, we could deliver exactly the same in November as in July. So the TV everything was as planned before. And I can tell you that the City Hall paid 100% of the costs of this. So
wow,
because in July, it was us paying for the TV production, not for the internet connections, because it was the City Hall, but the rest was us. But for November, they paid everything. the GPSs, the libraries, everything that we needed for the TV, they did it. And by the way, my biggest concern in July, when the event was canceled, the forest, my concern was, okay, what will happen now that maybe the teams will ask for a refund of the entries? So we understood, at least I understood with a week, that nobody was going to do that, especially because we organized alternative competitions and so on. But I was very afraid of that, because if we had to give back the money, it would be a disaster for our club. We have no enough, because as you saw, we invested a lot. We didn't organize a JWOC for profit, because every euro I spent on something. So I was very concerned with that. And a shout out to all the national team members, the national coaches, for being so comprehensive with us and for supporting us. I was a little bit afraid, but then I understood that everybody knew that we really wanted to do something. And if we are not going to do, we are the first ones to be very sad with it. And big shout out to the team officials that behaved in a perfect way.
I remember and that you
also we had to charge again a little bit of entries in November, and nobody was against that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I remember that you've actually mentioned this during one of the team officials meeting, and this I remember that this was the first moment where it actually crossed my mind that, you know, maybe actually this is a reasonable thing to worry about, that somebody might ask for a refund, but it never crossed my mind earlier as a coach. And I think this was probably true for most of them. And I was during those team official events, I was sitting and looking around at the coaches, and as you said, most of them were very, very supportive. Some of them were maybe trying to get something out of extraordinary a little bit, but at the same time I could feel that they are just fighting for their youth, and these were most of the coaches from the countries that really had to travel very, very far, and you know, I knew that it was going to be difficult for them to come to the November edition.
Yeah, but still in November we had 32 nationalities instead of 37, so only 5 countries could not come.
Yes, I was going to ask about it. I had this question.
Fantastic.
So 32 out of 37, that's really good.
If we think about the countries that are traveling from far, so we had guys from the US, we have one runner from Canada, in fact he's living in France, but still from Canada, and then we have people from Japan, people from China,
Australia.
Hong Kong, China, people from New Zealand, people from Australia. So it was amazing how they could travel back again to Aguiar da Beira, and
it gave us a lot of motivation. And I can tell you, it was when I told the president of the City Hall, we are going to have more than 30 nationalities again, and this is the best marketing, the live TV production is the best marketing we can have to the City Hall. Then that's the argument that he said, okay, so let's spend that money you need for the live TV production.
Cool, absolutely. All right, let me look at the list. Yeah, how many runners were unable to come again? We already know that. Is it profitable to organize this event? I think you partly mentioned that already. So you said that you weren't thinking about profits. You were actually trying to spend everything you were able to on making this event as good as possible. So how would you answer that?
Yeah, it is profitable. And the big phrase here, and that the thing that people should put on their minds is, it can be profitable even if you do it as high quality as possible. And we haven't cut on anything. We spent a lot of money on training maps, a lot of money updating the training maps. We spend a lot of money on TV production, a lot, and the TV production was free, so no one had to pay for it. And
yeah, that was amazing.
On my mind, on a small sport like orienteering, this should be like this. If we really want to spread orienteering worldwide, we really need to have it free so that everybody can look at it. You don't have to pay and in the end, it was profitable. So, yeah.
I would say that it's profitable for sure, because you have about 100,000 euros of entries, but you need to be very smart and try to get money wherever you can. So you should organize good training camps, so you get some profit from it. You need to have a JWOC tour, so you can have some extra income from those races. And you need, of course, sell food and everything, have a bar. And it's profitable, but also because the City Hall of Aguiar da Beira is very helpful. So they gave us some money, and more important than the money they gave us is the services they did that themselves, or they hired others. For example,
Right.
all the stages and the tents at the arenas, the internet connection that we had to put up together to have the TV production, the cables that were going to 1 kilometer far away, cameras were also fiber optic cables from the service from the internet. All those are very huge costs. So for the organizers from next year, more than getting money from the City Hall, if you can ask them to get the service instead, get the arena tents, get the stages. If you can get them to pay the sound system and the big screen, which we paid ourselves in July, put them setting up the very good company to set up the internet connection. That's a big cost. So if they have that cost with the income you get from the entries and from the training camps, you can pay the printing, the map making, all those things from a normal competition. I think I'm clear.
But of course, if we don't have the support from the City Hall, this will be really on the negative point. But
yeah.
Okay, cool. And I think that you've mentioned that they paid for the buses, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think that before we started recording, we talked a little bit with Rafael, and you said that your pension is also paid by the City Hall, is it not? So and you were working full time, you said, from November, so that's like more than half a year. So that would be an additional cost as well, I guess.
But this what my situation in Aguiar da Beira is that I'm not a City Hall employee, but I do work for the City Hall, and from that I take most of my income since 18, 19. So it's very good. And I do a lot of tasks around here, from new maps, updating maps, organizing competitions, trainings in the school with the kids. I'm now opening an orienteering club local in Aguiar da Beira. So that's part of my tasks, and that's why the City Hall is paying me to develop orienteering around the county. And yeah, but that's not on the budget of the JWOC at all. It's completely different thing.
Yeah, but all the work you did for the JWOC starting from that November, it didn't go into the cost side of the JWOC organization, right?
No. I have like a 3-year contract with them. So part of my tasks, I have a big task of things I need to do, new permanent orienteering courses for beginners and so on. So part of my tasks is be responsible for organizing the orienteering activities here.
Okay, sure. We don't have to go into details. I just wanted to mention that.
I can tell you that I can tell you that because of JWOC, and it should be only until July, but then it went all the way until November. I have all the parts of my responsibilities behind. By this time, I should have a new map, and I should have a new permanent orienteering courses for beginners, and I should have already the team should already be, the club here should already be open, and it's not yet. So everything was a little bit delayed because of this, but yeah, it's part of my job. It's no problem at all.
All right, good. All right. Do you think it was a good idea to have JWOC in July in Portugal? Because as far as I know, the weather in Portugal at this time of the year has a big risk of being hot. And I think that even if we were allowed to go into the forest during the July JWOC, the temperatures we had over there were around 40 degrees, especially in the afternoon. I had troubles lying down in bed, not to mention running in a forest. I don't think it would have been pleasant for anyone to run the forest races in this kind of weather, would it?
I think more than pleasant, it would not be fair at all.
Yeah.
So first of all, what we prepared so hard, like the winning times for the long distance would not be met at all.
Probably.
No, not probably. Physiologically, it's impossible. Again, this is physiology of sport. It's impossible. With that heat, you have struggled to regulate your body temperature. So you really need to moderate the intensity. You cannot run as high intensity as in November. So in the end, it would be totally shit. There's not other way to say it. With the temperatures like that, it would be impossible to do it.
Yeah, but funny fact. The week in 2021 where it should have been, it was about 27, 28.
No, less than that. In 2020,
I remember Helge was there, and I remember it was very good temperature.
We had event advisor visits in 21, exactly the same dates as JWOC would have been. And I remember quite clearly that on the mornings when we left to go to the terrain, for example, it was foggy, and sometimes it was even raining.
Right.
So that, again, it was really totally different scenario. We never had this scenario in Portugal. It was record high temperatures all over the country.
Yeah, and I think in general in Europe as well.
Yeah, so this was climate change at its best. And then taking probably for your next question is, should we organize this in July over the next years? Maybe not. Maybe not.
It depends on the place.
I think when we talk about this, it goes a little bit further than just the temperatures. Of course, for kids, it is really important to have this when it's school break.
Yeah.
It needs to be on a school break, but all over Europe, you have school breaks on other parts. But if we look into this from a financial point of view, it also makes a little bit of sense moving it around from summer. Why? We don't have these problems around Aguiar da Beira because it's not a tourist location.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go close to the coast in Portugal, the temperatures there are always lower.
Yeah.
On the summertime, you pay 3 times more for an hotel room than you pay on the winter time.
Exactly.
If you go look into how much it costs to rent a car or a minibus,
and the tent,
in the summer, it costs 4 times more than on the winter time.
I experienced it this year, yes.
So it's crazy. Like when people start asking me about prices for minibuses, and I started because I work with training camps for many years, but always over winter. So this was actually the first time I had to rent cars on the summer period. And I was like, no, this cannot be possible. I will not say this to people. But they were booking with me. And I said, oh. And then I went to the websites and I said, no, the prices on the websites are double what the prices I have. So yeah, also from the financial point of view, maybe it makes a little bit of sense to try and move this around. And on the last part is, we tend to concentrate all the major IOF events on the same period. For us, it was really, really bad that IOF set the same dates for the World Masters as for the Junior World Orienteering Championships. Again, one of the incomes that we can have as an organizer, and if we want to deliver quality, if we want to deliver free TV production, we need the income. It's not other way.
Exactly.
It's to have a JWOC tour with a decent amount of participants. When you have World Masters on the same dates as the Junior World Orienteering Championships, you are taking a little bit of the potential people that can come. If you are the grandparents of a kid that is coming for JWOC, and you are also a keen orienteer, you prefer to be competing on the World Masters instead of coming and watching your grandchild. So we should take a little bit care about the sport on this way.
So this is actually something that came to my mind only this year. I never thought about it earlier, but this year I started wondering whether it would make sense to actually start moving maybe some of these major competitions either somewhere earlier in May or June, or somewhere later, like in September, October, maybe even November, depending on the country. And I think that the climate change, I think it's definitely visible. I remember that like 15, 20 years ago, during winter times, I wasn't able to go orienteering in the forest because the snow was just too deep. And nowadays, almost every year, we are doing map trainings every weekend without any major problems. So it's definitely visible. And it's also visible during summer with those heat waves that are coming, and they are getting stronger and stronger. And I think it's a little bit of a gamble when you're organizing these events in the summer, because it might be good. Like you said, like last year, 2021, the temperatures were fine. This year, they were just obnoxious, and running would have been, as you said, unfair and unpleasant in general. So, and you've also mentioned school, and I think that for other events, maybe it is something to consider. But for World Championship, maybe not so much, because would you really rather go to school than join the World Championship event? I wouldn't. And if it was my child asking me that question, I would be, my answer would be obvious. And maybe I'm just a silly parent that always says that sport activities are more important than school. You can learn later, but you cannot get better at sport activities later. That just won't happen. So I think it's not such a big of a problem. Maybe it's just a small change in the mentality and or organization, and how people are nowadays adjusted to when these events are happening. Everybody's thinking, okay, these are the months where it is, but maybe it's just something that we're used to from the past, and it's easy to change, really. I don't know. I was just thinking about it.
I think for the senior level, it makes no difference. For the juniors, maybe we could use Easter. Maybe, I don't know, at least in Portugal and in Spain and probably all around, it's Easter holiday. So maybe we can start to use Easter for major competition. But I think it's very important. It makes a huge difference if you are organizing in Portugal, Spain, Italy, maybe France, or if you are organizing in Sweden or Norway. That you need to be more careful in the southern countries. But I see the only trouble I see with organizing outside the summer, the biggest concern I have, it's the staff members, because also a lot of people have university or school, so they are on vacation, so it's easier. But
or jobs, right?
To be honest, the JWOC staff from July was so motivated. They like so much to be in here during the week. They have no much job to do. They could have funny times. They could work and so on. So they were so motivated. I had no problems finding enough people for November, because everybody said, I will go again. So maybe finding people to help outside the vacations, it's not a question of vacation, but a question of motivation. Maybe if you can motivate the staff, but for sure it will be more challenging to have people, because in November we organized it in the 3 days, and it was Friday and weekend. So most of the staff members arrived the day before at night. They had maximum to take 1 vacation day. It's complicated with the staff, I guess, to organize outside the summer break. But at least for countries like Portugal, you really can't organize anything again. I will never apply for a competition in summer again. Never.
That was the conclusion. So in 15 seconds, the conclusion is we will never apply again to organize something on the summer.
Never again.
Never
again.
Never ever.
Okay. But by the way, there is it nicely connects with the question from Tomas Lima. Will we see another major IOF event in Aguiar da Beira in the near future?
Well, my wife is not, probably she will not see this, so I guess we might, but we have no discussions yet with the City Hall regarding this. Now I am more focused on creating the orienteering club here. But after such a huge success, it would be strange not to have. But we have no conversations yet, Bruno.
It depends. It depends on a lot of things, and it also depends then on IOF if they would trust us again, because of course, from I think if I was on IOF Council, every time now some bids from Aguiar da Beira come, I will be really regarding that something can happen. But of course we will not, if we organize something in the future, it will not be over the summer. It should be, like Rafael said, or around Easter or May, or then in October, November. And also I think from the point of view of trying to spread orienteering throughout the season, it makes sense, because what happened this year, for example, on the senior level, when you have the two major events so close together and so compact together, it seems like then for the rest of the season is like totally blank. There's nothing around.
Yeah, I mean, you have World Cup races, right? But
yeah. And for example, for us to go and organize a World Cup race is not so easy, because the World Cup is organized by a different consortium, so it's not really an easy application to do. And then moving from the junior level to the senior level, the cost of organizing such an event, it increases so much.
Why?
Because the fee you need to pay to IOF, it's much higher than to organize a junior world orienteering championship.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And then the costs for the TV production are also higher, because you need to have a different setup with the TV production. So it's not just like, I don't know to who I've said this, but it's not just moving one step over, it's to climb the full ladder, so moving from the junior to organize junior world orienteering championship, of course, big success. Maps are great. Everybody would enjoy to come here, but it's a full ladder organizing a senior event. But yeah, we will see in the future.
I see. All right, fair enough. What advice would you give to other organizers? So there were already quite a few while we were talking, but is there anything else that comes to mind, to your mind, that you would like to share with someone organizing like JWOC events in the future?
Time
for me,
dedicated as much time as possible to be sure that people that need to be with that bus at that time will not miss, or that people that needs to give the key for the start building will not miss. That's the kind of things that require a lot of time. And if you want to sleep the week before, as I did, you really need to be sure that you took care of all the things that you have to do. So time, it's the most important thing you need if you want to organize something.
Yeah, and then it's be passionate about the sport. You really need to love orienteering, and you really need to love seeing the athletes competing and enjoying your work. If you are really passionate about that, and if you plan all the small details, then it will be successful, I think.
And also important, take also care of your family during the process. So you will be so motivated to do such a good job that it's very easy to overwork and not pay attention to everybody that deserves it. So it's also something that I advise, to be sure that you can balance between family and working time. It's also very tricky to do, but yeah, it's important.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I'm just looking at the questions. There is a very important, not a question, but a message. It says, Bruno, we love you. And it's from Team Spain Junior. So yeah, good job, guys. There's also a question from Matteo Mandelli. Biggest challenges, both technical and organizational, from technical and organizational perspective. But I think we've already talked about it somewhere towards the beginning. So I think we can skip this one. But another one is quite interesting. How did you provide TV streaming without any help from major national TVs?
we used the company that was responsible for producing it. It's from one guy that usually the magazines from orienteering races that then go to the national television, and he works in producing material for events all around sports and not sports. So it's funny because we started with
Can I take
first
over here?
thing.
Maybe I
Yeah,
can
if you
explain
want
it
to.
faster than Rafael.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing is know-how. We have the know-how, so we know how to do it. And I think that's, at least in Portugal, we know how to do it much better than if we take it to a national broadcast company, TV, because they haven't produced orienteering. And so we knew exactly what to do, and we hired the right people to the right places. And then, so first of all, if you want to do something like this, you really need to have fiber optics to do this. So there's no other way to have like wireless Wi-Fi, blah blah blah. That will not work. You need fiber optics. We had fiber optics paid by the city hall to the arena and to the TV locations in the forest. More than 1 kilometer of fiber optics inside the forest. The second of all is the TV cameras. So they were hired by this company that normally produces the clips for the Portuguese TV production. Then the third thing is graphics. Super important to feel the production. If you don't have TV graphics, then you are looking at some picture from the forest. And here we hired Ales Marek. Is normally doing also the dial, working with the World Cup and WOCs, especially when Karel is producing it, and it was fantastic. Third, GPS. You also have to have good GPS, working GPS for everybody. And we have the guys from Alligator. They were here with us, and they have the special software to produce things for TV. So we had all these pieces together. And then we had a plan, and that was a little bit of my responsibility. So in the factory was discussing this with Rafael a lot. You wanted to have more pictures from the terrain, trying to have some way of having some running cameras, but we didn't have the resources for that because it's really expensive. So in the end, I said, no, we're just going to have fixed cameras and to have a simple way of doing things with those fixed TV passage. And then it's okay, you have the scenario is set, you have the team of people watching what should go in, you have the commentators doing their jobs. So and in the end it worked out. But again, if you are trying to do this for the first time without any type of experience, this will be hard. And
I can tell you also something that Bruno said. We had the know-how, yes, especially we knew what we wanted to show, but how to do it, it was not that easy. For example, to find someone to do the graphics, the TV graphics with the results, it was a hell of a job, and it was me doing it. I was contacting several people around, and finally Lucas Lucas Schubnel from Switzerland. He is also always involved in the World Cup TV production from Switzerland. He told me about Ales, and then I finally found him, and it was not an easy task to do, I can tell you. And also, I think you need to, in the beginning, we did a pyramid of ambitions, and it's very important to have one. So you can go, okay, so first things, TV in the arenas, next thing in the pyramid, TV in the forest, and then TV graphics, GPS, and so on and so on. And you are going up and up. And we are happy to say that we went all the way until the second. The only thing we didn't show, we didn't reach, was the running cameras and more cameras in the forest. So yeah, it was very, very good in the end. Yes.
But in the end, we should not overplan it, because at JWOC, for example, you have two classes running at the same time. So if, for example, in the middle distance, we only had the TV section in the forest plus the TV section in the end. And the first big mistake, and I also got a little bit of experience because I was doing the speaker job in
Last year.
2021 in Turkey. So I think some weeks before they said, okay, we are going to have also TV production. I said, wow, okay. And they sent me the plan, and it was chaos because they had more resources than we had, much more resources than we had, but they were spreading the cameras all over. So the initial plan, they were spreading it all over, and you cannot do this when you are making a TV production. For the commentators, you need time to make a commentary. So you need to show the runner at least 30 seconds to be able to show the runner, talk a little bit about what he is doing, what he has been doing, what are the challenging next, and create some emotion. If you have the camera spread out throughout the controls, you will never be able to show anything because they will just move away from the camera. So really fast. And second of all, you will have people all over the course and you don't know who to prioritize. So the question here was always, let's try to keep it simple. Keep it simple, and there will always be something to show, always. And
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
I don't know if you follow it from home, the second part.
I did most of it, yes, as much as I could, and it was very good. It was very good. It was pleasure to watch.
Good. That's a good feedback to us.
All right. Yeah. So I promise that I will also give you my feedback regarding the whole JWOC. So I think this is a good time for it because we are going to wrap it up very soon. From my perspective, I think that you did an amazing job, and today's talk is kind of confirming that when I'm getting into the details that I didn't know before. But the first thing that came to my mind when I've learned that there is going to be this big change when it comes to forest races is, of course, regarding my runners. But the second part was, okay, the organizers are so much screwed with this, right? And I was thinking how you're going to handle it. And I think you've handled it in the best possible manner. So you not only came up with a new plan, and you did your best to fill the whole week that we've almost the whole week that we spent there, so that nobody is bored. And from the runner's perspective, I can tell you that this was probably the best thing that could have happened. This sprint relay and this additional race, the third one, and some activities in between that were also organized. I think that it really saved this week. So that was one thing. Another thing was that the way you handled the communication was perfect. I think in my mind, it was perfect. So during the team officials meetings, well, not all the conversations were smooth, not at least from the coach's perspective. As I said, some coaches were fighting for some things for the runners, which was totally understandable. But at the same time, I saw that your approach was with compassion, with understanding, with calmness, and you were able to handle it just perfectly. I remember this was my 6th JWOC as a coach. I remember one in Norway that was kind of curious because during every team officials meeting, they had a moderator. So when you were asking questions as a coach, when I was asking questions to the moderator. The moderator was then going to the staff that is sitting behind the table and getting the answer from them and then replying. So there was like a middleman in between. And I thought this was a very clever idea because this allowed like the organizers to be a little bit separate. So whenever some angry remarks even were made to the organizers, they were not getting directly to the organizers, but there was a moderator in between. So it was a clever idea to diffuse the tension. You didn't do that, but I think at the same time it wasn't needed because like your stance, your approach was so good that it was unnecessary. And then I wasn't able to join unfortunately the November event, but I talked with the youth and I know that they didn't complain at all about it. I know that everything was top notch and they were super happy that first of all, it happened, and second of all, the quality. So really, really amazing job, guys. If I had a hat, I would take it off to you.
Thank you.
I got to know you this year, and I think you're amazing people that really have a passion for this sport and are doing a lot of good work around it. So I hope we will have the opportunity to not only meet together in the future, because I will be visiting Portugal, definitely. I mean, I'm already coming next year, but not to Aguiar da Beira this time, but to Portugal meeting and the surrounding areas. So closer to Lisbon, but I will definitely come back to Aguiar da Beira because I also love the terrains. Some people from my team said that, okay, they need to take a break from Portugal before they come back again after 5 visits this year. But I don't have this feeling. I feel like the terrains are amazing, challenging, which I like the most. And I'm definitely coming back.
Thanks.
you.
All right. So the last thing for today I have is that when I invited Bruno initially for this conversation, I also said that let's take a moment to talk about his thesis that he also posted on Facebook. That's how I found it. So Bruno, if you can sum up the most interesting elements from the thesis, the ones that can actually give someone important information for the future, be it the runner or the course planners, for example. What are the most important findings for your thesis? Or, of course, you can start with the title of it.
Well, the title, the full title, because there's another article that was not published yet. So the full title and the beginning of the thesis was trying to understand what are the causes for the variability of the winning times and the times within orienteering. Also because I found a study that is studying the age of peak performance in orienteering, and it's basing the calculations on the time that the runners did throughout their careers on each event. And we all know that the time is not relevant in orienteering. So the time that you do on the middle distance from JWOC 2021 is totally irrelevant compared with the time of the JWOC 2022. So this first article comes a little bit from my experience as a course setter, because if you go and analyze the World Championships, for example, and if we take the men's middle distance on the walks from the period that I study from 2009 to 2019, you will understand that the average winning time on the middle distance is over 35 minutes. So the rules say that the winning time should be between 30 and 35, and we know that. So the average of those years is over the estimated time. So and many of the years the winning time is really over what is written on the rules. So I know that the organizers have a lot of difficulty getting the winning times right. And if the main thing about this thesis is it points out to what are the factors that you as a course setter need to pay attention. So the first one, of course, is runnability on the terrain. That will affect a lot on how long the course should be. And even if you have data from similar terrains, you really need to have the feeling of, is this terrain a little bit more runnable than the terrain beside it or not? For example, with us in JWOC, I knew, and we discussed this a lot, so I knew that for the first version of the middle distance courses, if the terrain would keep to be as it was in the beginning, without any type of cleaning, the men, especially the men, because we were counting that Anna would come, and she's a superstar. So in the women's class, we were a little bit certain that the women will go below 25, because it should be between 20 to 25. But I was pointing on my calculations that the winning time for the men should be 25:30. That is 30 seconds over the expected winning time. But then this cleaning happened. So this made the change, and we can not only count on the distance and count on climbing. So we really need to pay attention to how runnable the terrain is.
Sure.
And the second point is, and this clearly points out that there's a really clear relation between the speed of the runners and the technical difficulty of the courses. So I asked the runners that were on the top 30 to qualify all the courses from 2009 to 2019 in terms of technical difficulty of the navigation. And there's a huge correlation both on the long distance and on the middle distance within If it's more difficult navigating, then the speed will be lower. So you also need to take this into account, that if you are doing a course that is really, really, really difficult, then you really need to cut a little bit on the distance. Otherwise, it will be over the winning time. And then you ask me, and how should we do this? It comes from experience. There's no other way to do this.
Is it like when you build a course, do you send someone to the forest to run it to just get the feeling of how much time will it take?
Also, but you need to be there. You need to feel that, you as a course setter, you need to feel the terrain, and you need to feel like, okay, I set this middle distance on the terrain just beside this. It was 4 kilometers. They did this, but that one, the runnability is much better than this one. So,
Sure.
and here, so you have the feeling you run both courses. You need to, as a course setter, you need to go to the terrain a lot of hours. I told on the course setting clinic, I think I spent more hours on the middle distance and relay terrain than the Finnish map makers. I'm almost certain that I spend more hours there. Oh yes, Rafael. Rafael also spent a lot of hours making but I spent way too many hours there, because we were testing a lot of the course, and then the terrain was changing a lot, because there was cleaning being made by us. So you need to feel of how the terrain is if you want to adjust this. And then the second thing was, I look into what causes the spread of times between the runners. So and I analyzed this from 2009 to 2019, and what I saw was, especially for the men's long distances, if the runnability, there's influence again of the runnability and the influence of the technical difficulty, but also of the number of control points that the course has.
Exactly, that's the one I liked when I read your thesis.
Yeah, and like now that the course of the year has been released, we were happily to have 2 courses on the top 10. The long distance was the 3rd on that ranking list, but in fact it was 2012 when and it was me that set the course. It was the middle distance of Portugal meeting 2012 was the course of the year. And I remember at the time I had a huge discussion with the Portuguese event advisor, because he was saying, you should put more controls onto this course. We really like the direction changes. It misses a little bit of the direction changes. But honestly, in orienteering, it's all about navigating. And every time you have a control point, you are saying the runner, you are here.
Yes.
Are giving the control point is giving a feedback to the runner, saying,
and it's like 100% feedback.
Yeah, you say, now you are here at this point. And if you have a lot of controls, then you are saying the runner a lot of times, you are here. And when I was coaching the national team, I always said the short route choices are really easy, because on that route choices, you just put the compass and run.
Yeah.
So I was really pleased to see that if you reduce the number of controls, normally the spread of the times are bigger. So this means that, okay, in fact, it makes sense, because it will increase the difficulty of navigation of the course.
Yeah.
So I've been telling this for many, many years, and I was really positively surprised that the results pointed on that way. And then also I did that small analysis of the middle distance of JWOC, and you saw that the gap between the 2 firsts, between Zoltan and Edwin, was made on those 2 longer legs. So yeah, that's the way I normally tend to course set, and I think
I love this conclusion very much, because I think that not many course setters are playing according to the rules, to these rules. And I also thought about it myself this summer when we were at the O-Ringen with the kind of sports training camp. And I was saying exactly the same thing, that whenever they have short legs, they can just go somewhere near the control, and eventually they will find it. and the control has this 100% confirmation that you're exactly in this place. And when there is a long lag, you can immediately see while analyzing the GPSs that the first 200, 300 meters are usually without any problems, but then they start losing confidence. And they're like, okay, is it this hill or is it this hill? I'm not sure anymore, right? And then the doubt starts to creep in, and this is what's causing mistakes in the end. So yeah, I had exactly the same conclusion. I'm happy that you were able to confirm it.
And again, it was positively. I hope that we can influence a little bit of the course setters to use a little bit less control points. Of course, in some of the areas you need to do this, to have more control points to create some more challenge, especially if you're doing a middle distance and you have a map that has a lot of paths. Otherwise, people will just go out to the paths. But in most of the terrains, you can really easily do some longer legs.
Yep. All right. Perfect. Amazing.
By the point of view of the runner, those middle distance with a lot of controls look like control picking training. Those are funny, but those longer legs are more decisive for sure. And also something that I a lot of times talk with this with Bruno, it's not, if you have a very technical area on the map, sometimes it's better to put a leg over it than put the control inside it. And in here, because we have so much difficult places, for some course setters, they have, okay, I need to put 3 controls in here, and sometimes when it's enough, or maybe even any. And those are the kind of conversations we have about also when we are course setting some trainings and competitions around here.
Nice. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think it's been more than 1.5 hours. It's probably the longest video we're going to have.
Yeah, I don't know if people will watch this until the end.
I don't know as well, but you know, I've learned a lot, and hopefully everybody that is watching has learned a lot as well. I think this is definitely going to be interesting for all the organizers that will have the challenge of organizing the major events in the future, because I think it's a really important knowledge and also the mindset that they need to have. So thank you so much for joining, for getting into the details and explaining everything. As I said, you both are amazing, and hopefully we will have more opportunities to meet and maybe also work together in the future. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank
you. And also a word for your project. It's a very interesting project. And I will also make a recommendation, as I did after your first episode. Please make it a podcast. Because, for example, for me, when I'm outside in the forest mapping, I need hours and hours of podcasts, and I can't watch YouTube. So please make this also a podcast.
So yeah, I forgot to mention it, but I did, Rafael. I did.
Oh, you did already? I
didn't announce it yet. So I didn't make it public yet. So there is no link available, but I will soon. I will put all the past materials over there. And then all the new ones will be coming with the rhythm of the videos coming to the channel.
Perfect. Next time I have a mapping project, I have already some days of podcasts.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.